Have you ever been part of like one of those online teams? You've got a bunch of really smart people. Everybody's dialed in from different places. Everybody's got different expertise.
Yeah.
And it just feels like something's missing. Like there's all this potential, all these insights just kind of floating around out there, but you're not quite hitting that like next level of understanding.
I think a lot of people have been there, and it's something that researchers and Daigelmeyer and Hans Botta have been looking into, really digging into how to make online collaboration more effective.
And they focus on this idea of like building new knowledge together, right?
Right. They call it drawing collaborative inferences.
Mm.
And their work dives deep into how to actually make that happen online.
So we've been diving deep into their research ourselves, and what's really interesting is they found some pretty specific ways to move beyond just sharing information online.
Yeah, it's about actually getting to that point where you're constructing new knowledge together, like genuinely new understanding.
And hopefully this will be a bit of a shortcut for you, our listeners, to kind of tap into those key findings and maybe make your own online collaboration a lot more effective.
Because it turns out that having all this potential for online collaboration doesn't automatically mean that people are going to collaborate effectively.
Right.
Daigelmeyer and Spada talk about how people often need specific support to really do well when they're working together online.
And that makes me think of this idea of adaptive collaboration support, right? Like it's not just about throwing people into an online environment and saying, good luck.
Exactly. It's moving away from those kind of older, more rigid ways of doing things online, where you had to like follow a really strict script.
The one-size-fits-all approach.
And they obviously point out the dangers of what they call over-scripting, where too much structure can end up limiting people's contributions and even their motivation.
Right. It's like being micromanaged in an online meeting.
Right, exactly. So adaptive support is about finding ways to provide help as people are working together online, but in a way that actually encourages them to become better at regulating their own interactions.
So it's like they're getting better at collaborating as they go, and the support helps them do that.
Right. It's almost like learning a new skill. You might need some guidance at first, but the goal is to eventually be able to do it on your own. And Daigelmeyer and Spada emphasize that learning how to collaborate effectively is like a valuable outcome in itself.
It's not just a means to an end, it's a skill you can develop.
Exactly. And a crucial part of that skill is something they call collaborative inferences.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. What exactly are these collaborative inferences, and why are they so important for effective online collaboration?
So when you're working online, you're often dealing with people who have different areas of expertise, right?
Right. Everyone brings their own unique knowledge and perspective.
Yeah. And the real magic happens when you can actually weave those different perspectives together. It's like combining those different puzzle pieces to get a clearer picture.
A picture that no one could have seen on their own.
Exactly. And that's really what collaborative inferences are all about. It's about taking information that's initially held by different people, and through your interactions, through your discussions, you're putting it together in a way that creates this new shared understanding.
So it's more than just everyone sharing what they already know. It's about actually creating something new together.
Right. Like 1 + 1 = 3.
I like that. And the researchers actually used a kind of fun example to study this, right?
Yeah, they had university students work on this murder mystery task. So each student got a different set of clues, but they could only communicate with each other through audio, and they had to figure out who the murderer was together.
So it was like an online detective game.
Kind of, yeah. And to solve the case, they had to make these inferences by linking the clues that each partner had. So, for example, one student might find out that the victim was left-handed.
Right.
And the other student might find out that one of the suspects actually knew this and deliberately placed the murder weapon in the victim's right hand to throw off the investigation.
Okay, that's getting interesting. So neither of them could have figured that out on their own.
Exactly. It's only by bringing those two pieces of information together that they can really start to make some serious inferences about that suspect's guilt.
And this is what Daigelmeyer and Spada call a collaborative inference, because it comes from connecting those unique pieces of information that were initially distributed across the team.
Precisely.
Now, the research also talked about different types of inferences, right?
Yes, and this is really important for understanding why collaborative inferences can actually be kind of tricky.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about these different types of inferences.
So they identified 3 types based on how the information is distributed. So there's the collaborative inferences, like the one we just talked about.
Which come from information that's split between different people.
Right. Then there are individual inferences, which are also based on information that only one person knows, but they don't need to collaborate to figure it out.
So it's like that aha moment that happens in your own head.
Exactly. And then there are shared inferences, which are based on information that everyone already knows. So it's like you're all on the same page, you see the same information, and you come to the same conclusion.
Okay, so collaborative is about connecting different pieces of knowledge. Individual is about making a deduction based on your own unique knowledge. And shared is about realizing something based on what you all already know. It's like if you're trying to unlock a treasure chest.
Yeah.
Collaborative is needing two keys, each held by a different person. Individual is having both keys yourself, but needing to figure out which one works. And shared is you both already know the combination to the lock.
Perfect analogy. And here's the catch. Dieglemeyer and Spada found that even though we're often trying to bring different knowledge together when we collaborate, in practice, those collaborative inferences, the ones that actually rely on that distributed knowledge, are the least likely to occur naturally.
Oh, wow, that's surprising. You'd think those would be the easiest, right? Because you have all those different perspectives to work with.
You'd think so, but it actually highlights a common problem in groups. We tend to spend way more time talking about the stuff we already agree on, the things we already know, and we don't spend enough time exploring those unique insights that each person brings to the table.
Oh, I've definitely seen that happen. You get so caught up in discussing the familiar that you miss those really valuable but maybe less obvious connections.
Absolutely. So, if drawing these collaborative inferences is so important yet so tricky, what can we do to actually encourage it in our online teams?
That's the million-dollar question.
Degelmeyer and Spada explored two main approaches to providing support, what they call collaboration structuring and collaboration regulation.
Okay, so collaboration structuring sounds a lot like those predefined steps or activities we talked about earlier, like having a script for the collaboration.
Yeah, exactly. These methods are all about providing a fixed framework for the group to follow. So you might have specific stages, specific actions that people need to take at different points in the collaboration.
It's like a roadmap for the team.
Right. And while these methods can definitely be helpful for providing some basic structure, when it comes to a dynamic skill like drawing collaborative inferences, they found that these fixed scripts weren't super effective. They can be a bit too rigid, and they don't really adapt to the changing needs of the collaboration as it unfolds.
So it's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole sometimes.
Right, and that's where collaboration regulation comes in. This approach is much more flexible. Instead of having a fixed sequence, it's about monitoring the collaboration as it happens and providing support based on specific indicators.
So it's like having a coach on the sidelines who can see what's happening and offer guidance as needed.
Exactly. And they often use these things called condition-action pairs to guide the interaction. So, for example, if the system detects that some people are contributing a lot less than others, it might prompt them to share their thoughts.
That's smart. So it's responding to the actual dynamics of the conversation in real time.
Right. It's all about providing support where and when it's needed most.
So shifting gears a bit, the researchers actually moved away from that initial idea of a fixed sequence of sharing and then connecting information.
Right.
They ultimately landed on these three key strategies that they saw effective collaborators using in a much more flexible way.
Right. It's not about a strict order of steps, but rather these strategies can be applied throughout the collaboration.
Okay, so tell me more about these three flexible strategies that they found were really crucial for drawing collaborative inferences.
The first one is called information pooling, and it's all about being proactive in sharing any information that you think might be relevant, even if you're not entirely sure how it fits in yet.
So it's not just about keeping your cards close to your chest, it's about putting everything out on the table, so to speak.
Yeah, and a really important part of this is asking your partners for their perspective on the information you've shared.
So it's not just dumping information on them, it's actively seeking their input to make sense of it together.
Exactly. And the reason this is so important is that your partner might have a piece of knowledge that helps you understand the significance of what you've shared.
Ah, so it's like you need their knowledge to unlock the potential of your own?
Precisely. The second strategy is information take-up. This one's all about being a good listener, really paying attention to what your partner is saying, and trying to understand their perspective.
That sounds pretty basic, but I bet it's easier said than done in practice.
Yeah, it's about resisting that urge to just focus on your own thoughts or what you've already said. It's about actively engaging with what your partner is bringing to the table.
And this makes sense because if you're not really listening to and processing what your partner is saying, you're going to miss those opportunities to make those crucial connections between your different pieces of information.
Exactly. And that brings us to the third strategy, which is information connection. This is where you're actively trying to link the new information that's being shared with your existing knowledge about the task.
So you're looking for patterns, you're looking for relationships, you're trying to piece together the bigger picture.
Right. And the researchers point out that this can be particularly challenging in a real-time online discussion where there's a lot going on and you're trying to keep up with the flow of the conversation.
So it's like multitasking on steroids, essentially.
Kind of, yeah. But it's really crucial for those collaborative inferences to emerge.
So to recap, the three strategies are: share any potentially relevant information, really listen to and try to understand your partner's new information, and actively look for ways to connect it all together. It sounds simple, but it's clearly a lot more nuanced than just talking online.
And these three strategies form the basis for the adaptive support tool that Dagelmayer and Spada developed, which they call the Inference Tutoring Tool.
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. Tell me more about this tool and how it actually worked in practice.
So the tool was designed to provide guidance during the collaboration, but in a way that was really sensitive to what was actually happening in the conversation. It did this by identifying key moments, or what they call critical incidents, where those three strategies were either being used effectively or were noticeably absent.
So it was like a little detective itself, watching the collaboration unfold and looking for those key moments.
Exactly. And initially, it was actually guided by a human observer, a wizard, who used a structured observation system to track when relevant information was mentioned and when inferences were made.
So like a behind-the-scenes coach who is feeding information to the tool.
Right. And this allowed them to test the concept and see what kinds of feedback were most effective before trying to automate the whole thing.
That makes sense. So what kind of feedback did the tool actually provide to help people get better at collaborating?
So one type of feedback was what they called new information feedback. Whenever someone shared a new piece of information that was relevant to solving the murder mystery, the tool would highlight it and identify who had shared it.
It was like a little flag saying, hey, this new piece of information might be important. Let's pay attention to it.
Exactly. And the idea was to encourage both partners to think about how that new piece might connect to their own knowledge.
It's nudging them towards those information take-up and connection strategies.
Precisely. Another type of feedback was what they called complete inference feedback. This was given when the collaborators successfully made a correct inference that helped solve the case.
So it's like a positive reinforcement loop. You do something right, you get a little pat on the back, and it encourages you to keep doing it.
Exactly. And then, towards the later stages of the discussion, if the tool detected that certain relevant information hadn't been shared, or that key inferences hadn't been made, it would provide these missing information prompts and hints.
It's gently guiding them toward those crucial pieces of the puzzle without giving away the solution.
Exactly. And this really ties back to that idea of adaptive support, providing help exactly when and where it's needed most.
So they tested this whole thing out in an experiment, right? To see if it actually helped people get better at collaborating.
Yeah, they did a training experiment where participants worked on a preliminary task, and they compared different training methods. So there was a control group that got no training at all, a group that just collaborated on the task, basic training, a group that got written instructions on those three collaboration strategies, and then the tutored training group, which got both the strategy instructions and the adaptive support from the inference tutoring tool during their collaboration.
So that last group got the full package, so to speak.
Exactly. And after this training phase, they had all the groups work on the murder mystery task without any support.
Okay, so that's the real test. Can they apply what they've learned in a new situation?
Right. And the results were pretty impressive. The tutored training group showed the most significant improvement in their ability to draw those collaborative inferences, not just during the training task, but also on that subsequent murder mystery task where they didn't have the tool anymore.
So they weren't just getting good at using the tool, they were actually learning how to collaborate more effectively in general.
Exactly. They seem to have developed those transferable skills, that ability to self-regulate their collaborative interactions, even without the tool's guidance.
Now, that's what we want to see. And this was all thanks to that combination of explicit instruction and that adaptive support from the tool.
Right. And the researchers also found that the tutored training was more effective than just having the collaboration experience or just getting the instructions.
So it really highlights the value of that adaptive support component. It's not enough to just tell people what to do. They need that guidance in practice.
Exactly. Now, Degelmeyer and Spada also pointed out some broader implications of their work and where this research might go in the future. They mentioned that the adaptive support they describe is considered micro-adaptive because it's adjusting to the moment-by-moment progress of the collaboration.
So it's like fine-tuning the support in real time.
Right. And they also discussed the potential for developing these aptitude treatment interaction systems, which could take into account the individual skills and preferences of each collaborator.
So it's like personalized learning, but for teams.
Exactly. You can imagine a system that recognizes your strengths and weaknesses in collaboration and tailors its guidance accordingly.
That sounds pretty futuristic.
Yeah, but it's definitely an exciting area for future research.
Yeah.
Now, Jim Blaskovich, in his commentary on this research, brought up an important point, which is that the study really focused on those cognitive aspects of
Yeah,
collaboration.
right. The thinking part.
Right. And he suggested that future research should also explore the emotional and motivational factors that influence how well people work together online.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, even if a team has all the right cognitive strategies, if they don't trust each other, if there's not a sense of psychological safety in the virtual environment, they're not going to be as willing to share those unique ideas, those potentially game-changing insights.
Absolutely. And he also highlighted the practical challenges of actually building these kinds of intelligent tutoring systems. It's one thing to do it in a research setting, but it's another thing altogether to translate those insights into real-world tools that people can use in their everyday collaborations.
So it sounds like there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's a really promising area of research. So bringing it all back to you, our listener, what's the key takeaway from this deep dive into Deigelmeyer and Spada's work?
The bottom line is that effective online collaboration isn't just about having the right technology. It's about having the right skills. And particularly, it's about being able to draw those collaborative inferences, to actually integrate that unique knowledge that each team member brings to the table.
And what Deigelmeyer and Spada have shown is that adaptive support, that kind of guidance that encourages those strategies we talked about, like information pooling, information take-up, and information connection, can make a huge difference in your team's ability to do that.
It's about creating an environment where those collaborative inferences are more likely to happen.
So as you think about your own online collaborations, those virtual meetings, those shared projects, can you identify moments where maybe shared information dominated the conversation, where those unique perspectives might have been missed?
How could you consciously apply those strategies we discussed? Information pooling, information take-up, and information connection in your next online interaction.
It might make a bigger difference than you think. And here's one final thought to ponder as you continue your own explorations of online collaboration.
Beyond those cognitive strategies, what role do things like trust and psychological safety play in creating a virtual space where people feel comfortable sharing their unique, potentially valuable information?
How can we go beyond just the mechanics of collaboration and really tap into those emotional and motivational factors that can make or break a team's success online?
It's a question worth pondering as we continue to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of online collaboration.
Food for thought indeed.